cuties, and welcome to another episode of Litmas! Today we're going to talk writers, okay? I'm going to impart some writer advice to all of you. I'm going to answer some writer questions. So if you are an aspiring writer or you're a current writer and you're struggling with something, this is some advice that I have for you as someone who is a writer. I've written, if you don't know, I've written 5 full-length novels. I've written 12 short stories, really 2 just aren't published yet, as well as a book of small short story anthology, prequel stuff for the Ashford Archives. So I've written a lot. I think I can impart a little bit of advice to people. Sometimes when I watch writer advice videos, people don't take into account different lifestyles, or they're giving you like cut and dry advice, and I don't think that's always right. So I wanted to give you my personal advice for things. My first piece of advice is subjective, and it's a suggestion. You don't have to listen to it, okay? There's a lot of things out there that'll tell you like, never do this in writing, and those are always a lie. Like, no, for the most part, you shouldn't do them, but things like never have a prologue or do this, it's like, that's subjective. That is totally a subjective opinion. That's not good advice, because your genre might appreciate that. Your style might call for that. If you are a writer with the intent of publication, because not all writers are, some people just write for themselves, I would say the things you do need to invest in. You need to invest in a good editor, not a friend, not someone who just, you know, is like, I read, I'll check you for errors. You need actual editors, not just a proofreading editor. You need someone to look at your story, developmental wise, your plot wise, line editors to help you with your style and stuff. Now that does invest a lot of money. And I know not everybody has that. I definitely don't. But when you reach out to people who offer these services, more often than not, people will help you with payment plans or certain discounts and things. Just reach out. And I know, again, people who have anxiety, that can be very, very terrifying to do. But if you don't do it, it won't happen. There's nothing that can harm you by doing that, just reaching out to someone. You might get a negative response back. It's okay, move on to the next. There's lots of editors out there. If you need, like, again, I offer editing services, and I think they're pretty cheap. I know I have friends who are editors who can offer different styles of editing and with different payment options. So I don't want you to hinder yourself by thinking, I'll never be able to afford an editor, when there are workarounds for this. So don't give up on that. But it is vitally important, if you are considering publication, whether it's traditional or self-published, you need an editor. One of the biggest things about being a self-published author myself that people gripe on is like, oh, self-published books are all unedited trash, you know? And I have mistakes in all of my books. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, but I have had editors. This is a lot of advice I'm gonna impart on you, are things I didn't do in the beginning of my writing career and I should have done. So FYI, these are things I personally have been through. Now, things like my editor was not cheap, but my editor for Humane Society for Creatures and Cryptids was awesome and let me do a pay by chapter. So whatever the chapter was going to cost me, that's what I paid. Was it still a pretty penny because I write long chapters? Yes. But at least I had that option. It's not the option for everyone I know. Now, if you're friends with an actual editor who is willing to do stuff for free, great. But you should be paying your editors. They're doing you a service, even if they are a close friend of yours. Okay. You can work out trades and things. That's actually one thing that Tycho and I do. We trade services for each other, and that's worked out great for us. I think editing is the number one thing you need to invest in. The number 2 thing you need to invest in is cover art. If you are not already a proficient artist yourself, you're going to need cover art. Please don't slapdash it, and don't AI it. I know AI looks easy and pretty and stuff. That is theft. AI is theft, okay? The things that the AI program is pulling from were taken without consent from real, actual artists. Also, AI has a lot of environmental issues that I only recently became aware of because of the coolant systems that AI needs to run is causing water shortages and is affecting our environment. So, fun fact. Now, you can make a simple cover for the time being until you can afford a cover artist. But the first thing people will see of your book is its cover art. And time again, and I hate this because I do this too. I will judge a book by its cover, but sometimes the interior is better. But most people will judge it immediately. And if you don't have a polished cover, people are going to assume that the interior is not polished either. Honestly, at this point, a cover is number one for what you really need, and then editing. But they're on the same level, really, of necessities. That I cannot stress how important it is to have a good, polished, eye-catching cover, because everyone will judge you, especially if you're self-published. There's a trend that I feel like I didn't start, but I made more people aware. That's called self-pub purple. And it's where people get a standard, random person on the cover surrounded by wispy purple bluish hues. And that, to me, immediately, I know that book is self-published. Now, is that a polished cover? Yeah. Does it tell me anything about the book? No. It tells me that it's magic and there's a main character who probably doesn't actually look like that. Because more often than not, the cover artist's model is not the description of the main character. The interiors, luckily, a lot of the times the interiors are better. That's not always the case. I have found time and time again that the unpolished cover has proven true, that there was no care in the editing of their actual story, and they just published a first draft. So please don't do that. Take your time. You don't have to rush it. I know there's a lot of people who do rapid release. I don't necessarily trust rapid release unless they have a really fine-tuned system of writing to editing to this, and if that's their full-time job, then it makes more sense to me. But if you're someone like me who has a day job and writes, there's no way I would rapid release any of my work right now. It's nowhere near ready. So that's dependent on your situation. But number one is really your editing and your cover. Very, very important. The next thing that's very, very important is consideration of your title and author name. A lot of people have a working title that just becomes their title. And sometimes it's a very unoriginal title. Now, the problem with this is that when you search for that book on Goodreads, Storygraph, Amazon, anything like that, the popular titles will actually come up, not yours if you are brand new. I've seen so many books called Elemental or Chosen or very, very basic things like that. There are so many much more popular books. Your book will be buried under them, okay? Even finding my book, Search for the Phoenix King comes up instead of mine when you search it. It's very frustrating. But Humane Society for Creatures and Cryptids, it's the first one up there. So finding a very unique title. Now, sometimes it's just not the case, and that the vibe of the story is this very simple thing. But take under consideration a variety of titles. Get opinions from other people who have read your work before, your beta readers and stuff. If you can get those, ARC readers, alpha readers, really, to help kind of pinpoint what is a good title for this book that encompasses everything without making it buried in the abyss of all the other titles that are out there. Now, on the other hand, you can argue that having too unique a title means no one's searching for it, but I would rather have a unique title that's easier to find when I talk to someone than a title that's going to get buried under dozens and dozens of other books. Author names as well. This is a personal preference. You can use a pen name. That's great. There's too many initials. There's too many people using initials. And this is a silly pet peeve. If you're doing oh, I'm J.E. or K.A. or whatever, the way Goodreads and other search engines, if you don't type it exactly how the search engine has that name listed, you're not finding that book. I think using initials in author names hinders people. And this is a personal opinion. Do what you want. But I stopped using the A in mine because I used to be Stephanie A. Gillis on it. I'm just using Stephanie Gillis now. It's annoying because certain search engines will take that initial name and do weird things with it. So that's just a little bit of advice. Take that or leave that, but that's a pet peeve of mine. Next piece of advice, this is about the actual writing process. Find your method that works for you. There's a lot of different methods. A lot of people ask me, well, how do I finish writing this? How do I do this? And it's different for each person. There is no catch-all answer for how to write a book. I think that there are a lot of plot outline methods you can use. You can try writing like authors that you love for a day. A lot of times those authors have blogs that they'll post about their writing habits. Try that out. See what works for you. It might be an author that you didn't expect you would be writing similarly to. I personally, I've said it many times, use the 3-act, 9 block 27 chapter method that I found from Katie Tastic on YouTube. Works great. Save the Cat does not work great for me. Okay, it depends. There's lots of different methods that you can use. What I would suggest, because I've heard people who like come up to my table and will tell me about their book, and they're focusing too much on aesthetic of a scene rather than purpose. So I have people like, yeah, and this character, they got like this cool look like this, and then they're going to go boom, boom, boom and fight the bad guy here. And I'm like, that's not telling me the message of the story. And overall, you need to have your message. Why are you writing this book? Even if it is to just be a cool, fun read like that, that's still a purpose. But if you're writing just aesthetically, that's going to come across as shallow writing, in my opinion. Consider what you're writing and why you're writing it, and what's the medium for why you're writing it. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. I hope I'm making any kind of sense in this video. So find your method and, test out some different means of writing, okay? My next piece of advice is about finding other people to read your work. And it's very hard, and I know this, but find alpha readers, find beta readers. There's Facebook groups that'll do it. My community right here on Discord, we have a lot of people who are willing to beta read. Come join us and have some outside opinions. The worst thing, and I've seen this, that'll kill an idea, and I've heard this advice from other authors, is starting to write your book before it's finished showing somebody. Don't do that. It will kill the idea. It kills it every time. Maybe not for you, but for a lot of people, because this is writer advice I've seen told multiple times, and for myself, nothing kills an idea faster for me than sharing the work ahead before it's finished. Don't always listen to your family and friends. They might be lying to you. Not to seem, to push doubt into your mind. But a lot of times, because your family and friends know you, maybe you don't necessarily react well to criticism. Or in the past you haven't, even if they don't know that you do now or something. They often will sugarcoat their opinions to not offend you, to placate you, to encourage you. And most of the time it comes from a really nice place. But it's not necessarily true. It's the same thing I used to experience in the singing world. You see like when on American Idol or stuff like that, my mom told me I'm the best singer in the world, and they're the most off-key person ever. It's that same thing with writing. And especially if your family members or your friends are not writers, are not readers, their opinion isn't going to be as in-depth or helpful as another person in the sphere. So find your betas, find your alphas. Don't trust just your family and friends. Now there's exceptions to that. You don't have to come in the comments and go, well, my husband, you don't have to do that. I get it. But for the most part, the people who love you the most will placate. They will not necessarily tell you the truth. And if you are writing something really bad, they might not tell you, and then you might publish it, and then you might get 1-star bombed. Just saying, I don't encourage it, but it's a thing that happens, okay? They won't tell you you're plagiarizing something, you little teenager, and then you publish it. That's a real thing that happened. Just find your support group. Again, my Discord is filled with great people who are happy to read and encourage and give you the critiques that you need without lying to your face and setting you up for failure. That being said, finding a writer's group is great. Another support group, just to encourage or, encourage your writing, or after the fact, some days you do get a bad review, and it's nice to have a circle to vent to, not attack the reviewer, because reviews are for readers. Okay, that's my other one. Reviews are for readers, not for authors. And as someone who is both an author and a reader, I will never go to my reviews and reply to them. I might still see the review, but if I have a problem with it, I'm going to go holla, did you see this? I'm going to go fee, I need to vent. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to bring it to the surface, because your review, regardless, is valid unless it's like personally attacking me. And then that's a problem. But if you're reviewing the work and you didn't like it, okay. Because reading is subjective. So I think those are the biggest points that I have to make about writing. We're going to answer a couple questions that I got in. Number one, how do you keep up confidence when you feel like your writing /story/idea is silly? Friends. Again, support group. I can't tell you how many times Fee and Hala and Lena and I, and Tycho, we like, hey, look at this dumb thing that I just did. Or, hey, I don't feel like this is working. Help. And we help each other. So finding your people, it's a process. And I know some of you may be alone right now in the world, and it's hard to find those people, but they're out there. If you build it, they will come. I don't know. But that's my biggest advice, is find your support group. When do you know a story isn't working? Mostly if I've set it down for too long. If I won't work on something that I don't want to. So if I've lost any passion for that story, I will just, you know what? That's it. That's it. Most of the times I can figure out how to work a story. Like, that's why it did take me so long to finish the Ashboard Archive series, is because there's a lot of drafts that weren't working. And I would just get to a point and I would get that feeling of ick and go, you know what? Scrap, move on. I don't know if there's a specific advice I can give to that, but if you're just not feeling it, I would say give it to a friend to look at real quick. I know I just said don't let them see something that's half, done, but maybe they'll spot something that will help reignite the flame. Laura asks, how do I know if a story is good and worth writing? I tend to have so many and am unsure how to know when a story has potential, as well as whether or not it is something that only sounds interesting to me. Thank you, I appreciate you, and sorry if the English was not good. It's not my first language. You're cool, Laura. I think the best method for figuring out if it's good, evaluating why you're writing it. If you can't come up with an answer, might not be great. Number two, what does the book's message mean to you personally? Because you can write any kind of thing and find some kind of meaning in it. If you're just writing, again, for the sake of aesthetics, probably not great. You can get other opinions with a writing group, with people. Again, my Discord is open. We have full channels for writers. You can discuss things there, finding your people, getting support. I think the biggest thing in the writer life is having a good support group above all else. Because even though writing is a very solitary activity, it's not a solitary endeavor when putting it out into the world. You need that support. You need other people to help make you the best writer that you can be. So that's as best I can advise. Are you the type to write chronologically or skip around? I'm a chronological girly here. Okay, I can't do the skip around thing, because even when I outline stuff, it changes. The characters do other things. My fingers are faster than my thoughts, okay? I don't know how to explain that, but that's why I struggled so hard with Fall of the Asranum, because it kept deviating from what I had outlined, and I was kept trying to force it back into that. If I had written scenes that were later, those scenes would never get used. So I personally have to write chronologically. I cannot do jump around stuff. I envy those who can do the jump around thing and bring them back and connect them together. That's not how my brain works. Not at all. And finally, Michiru asks, do you think it's important to have done writing classes and read writing advice books to write well? No, I do not. Do I think those things can help? Absolutely I do. But I don't think it's necessary. What I do think is necessary is reading. I think reading lots of different types of books in different genres, in different audiences, I think that's one of the greatest tools that can make you a better writer. Because a lot of times those are the, the professionals. They're the ones doing this. You can read a book and analyze how it's done. You can learn new turns of phrase. You can learn new methods of storytelling that way. You don't have to take a class. I think the classes can be very, very helpful. I don't think they're helpful for everyone. I personally have only taken like a couple creative writing classes like in college. Didn't really do much else. I have never really read a writing advice book because a lot of times those advice books can seem cut and dry about what's right and what's wrong, and I don't particularly like that. It's the same way how I feel about self-help books. I don't really like them. They all feel very preachy to me. I think it's important that not every method for learning how to write works for everyone, but I do think you need to be a reader, bar none. You have to read. You don't have to read 300 books a year, but you do need to read, and you need to read outside your genre, and you need to read in your genre. You need just read, expose yourself to so much. You can be reading I wouldn't necessarily say read fan fiction, but fan fiction is really great popcorn. When you're needing inspiration or you're just needing something to fuel you up and get you excited. I wouldn't say necessarily fan fiction is the best writing out there. There are fan fictions that are great, fantastic writing, but just read. Well, that's the advice that I have for you today for writers. If you have any further questions, put them down below, and I will reply and answer to you. You can also DM me if you have more specific questions or anything. I am happy to help. I love, especially the indie community. I love uplifting voices and helping people get their stuff done. That's why I do productivity sprints, so you can get your works done. That's another method of getting your work done. Come to my sprints. We will get your work done, and we will support you all along the way. The only thing I ask is don't commandeer it. Here's one advice. If you're a new writer and you go up to a person's table at a convention and they're selling their actual fully finished book, don't go up there and tell them all about your unfinished work and not ask them anything about theirs. Don't do that. That's rude. Okay? They're not there to be your writing coach. They're there to sell their books. So, yeah. I'm happy to talk with people about their stuff, but when I'm selling my books, I would like some back and forth, not just you talking about something that's incomplete. It's usually entitled white men that are doing that to me though, so yeah. But don't be shy and tell me your ideas and stuff. Tell me what you need help on to discuss, or if you just need encouragement to get your stuff done. I'm here for you. I want to see more books. I'm always wanting more books. Despite me downsizing everything, I want you to write the book and get it out in the world so that I can read it. Me specifically, okay? You don't need to write for anyone else, just me. I am the end all of all. I'm sorry, this is getting out of hand. Okay, well, if you have any more questions, leave them down below. I will see you tomorrow, cuties. Bye. I personally, hello out there, come to my sprints and